Episode is brought to you by Mother Dirt. What is Mother Dirt? Mother Dirt is a skincare line and a range that you may have seen me post probably about 9 or 10 months ago when I very first used this company. Now, obviously, I care about what I put into my body, and a lot of you do too. But do you actually know what you're putting on your body, on your skin? There are a lot of chemicals coming in the form of makeup and soaps and detergents that we really do not know. And unfortunately, sometimes I do know what they can actually do to us. So this line is completely clean. It's formulated without a fragrance or sulfates or parabens or preservatives. And it's clinically tested for heavy metal contaminants. It's non-irritating, hyperallergenic, and allergy tested, and perfect for those sensitive little puppies like myself. So check out Mother Dirt. The link is in our show notes. Mother Dirt. Hey everybody, Kris Gethin here, and welcome to the Knowledge and Mileage podcast. So today I have a very, very special guest. I could be lying. No, I'm not. I'm being serious here because this is a very, very good friend of mine. We've been friends for many, many years now. God, well, it must be about like 15 years. We're both from Wales. We are both now living in the US. The only difference is that one become very, very successful and I'm still here in Boise, Idaho. That special guest is none other than Yoda Y3T, Neil Hill. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Hey guys, first and foremost, Kris, listen, it's very much a big deal for me to have the opportunity to engage with obviously the listeners and be a part of your podcast. You're definitely gathering a huge amount of credibility and momentum in the industry with the podcast and obviously what you've achieved with all your achievements within the industry. And let's be honest, it's vast with all the things that you've gone on to achieve within the industry. I remember you when you were working for Flex Magazine, you were a writer, etc. And obviously you moved on then onto bodybuilding.com. And looking now, you've got no doubt about it. You're the face, you're the brand, you're an owner of Cage Muscle, which to me is undoubtedly the best quality protein manufacturing supplement company in the world. There's no doubt about it. So of course I'm very privileged to be a part of what you're doing within Cage Muscle, and I'm very privileged to have the opportunity to be on this podcast with you.
Thank you very much, sir. That's probably the nicest thing that you've ever said to me. I need to get you in a public spotlight more often. No. You've always been very, very good to me, Neil, and I really, really appreciate that. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your friendship. We've said this many, many times. We never get to speak and see each other as often as we would like. However, friendship isn't based on quantity. A lot of the time, definitely isn't with me, because half the people that I'm very close to, I'm not in contact with that often, to be honest with you. It's all to do with quality. And, I definitely count you as like one of my very, very best friends. And I only have like 4 in total anyway. So that really puts you up the ladder, mate. So thank you so much for that. And, I really appreciate your support with Cage Muscle. When you said that you agreed, to come on board, like, man, I was so happy. And I am very happy because I know you're a genuine person. You're very authentic. So to have your authenticity from somebody of your stature and your regard within the industry really means a lot to me. So, I appreciate that too, brother. But I'm sure everybody out there that's listening to us is like, come on, just get on with the show, will you? Get a room, will you? So we'll get straight into it. So the majority of my listeners are going to know who you are, Neil. But not everybody knows your background. They know you as the guru behind having, some of the best athletes in the world and getting people into their lifetime best ever shape. But let's go back a little bit, back to when you were in Wales. Tell us a little bit about your background, your sporting background, and how that led into bodybuilding.
I very much come from a strong sporting background, not necessarily because my family went to sport, but when I was in school, Kris, I was very much behind on my schoolwork because I had dyslexia, and it wasn't diagnosed that I had dyslexia until I was 2 weeks away from finishing school completely. And, school for me was a big emotional challenge because I felt very different towards everybody else. My parents were very much on the lower side when it comes to earnings, etc. So I wouldn't say it was poverty environment, but it was certainly not middle class. You know, lived in government housing most of my life, growing up from the age of 0 up to the age of 19. My parents actually bought their first house when I was 19 years of age. But all the housing that I lived in throughout all of my teenage years, it was in government housing, which is obviously low-income housing. You know, most of my clothes were second-hand. I couldn't read and write in school. And if you are weak at something in school, you're potentially going to be picked on. And I had built up a defense mechanism that I was not the type of individual who was going to be picked upon. So, you know, I was quite a very strong-minded, aggressive individual, but not an aggressive in a negative way, but I wasn't somebody who was going to be pushed around. So my ability to feel like I was a normal individual, because all my friends were middle class or upper class, they were all pretty good with their grades. I was the complete opposite. And that was to excel in sport. And sport gave me the ability to express myself and show myself my self-determination on being the best athlete that I could be in whatever sport that I was doing at that given time. Now, I was gifted. You know, I was one of those people who was way above average when it came to certain sporting disciplines. And of course, if I had an interest in sport, I would put my efforts into that sport. And when I was about 7, when I was probably about 4 to 5, my parents, my mother brought me to the swimming pool. I loved the swimming pool, and I learned to swim, etc. By the time I was 7 or 8, I was representing Wales all around the world, competing internationally as an international swimmer from the age of about 7 to 8 to 15. But I swam so much that it became a chore. I hated the swimming pool, and even to this day now, I'm actually going to be 50 next year. I don't like the swimming pool. It just brings back like just bad memories of having to swim so much of my time as a child and a teenager growing up, because my mum then became a swimming teacher, and she became to be a swimming coach, and I suppose she expected myself and my brother, who was also a swimmer, to be leading by example. And but it allowed me to feel normal, I guess, within school life. And of course, I played and participated in other sports, and again, I did very, very well in those. But when I was 19 years of age, I started bodybuilding, or started weightlifting, which then obviously materialized into bodybuilding. I actually did my very first bodybuilding show after only 12 weeks of training. There was literally no muscle on me because I was so active as a child. Diet supplementation was obviously unheard of back then. We're going back many, many, many years. We're going back nearly, a long, long time, nearly 30 years. So I stepped on stage, and I don't remember exactly my body weight, but I was under 9 stone, and as you know, that's under 100. I was probably about 135 pounds, and my body fat percentage was probably about 8 or 9% body fat. But I displayed obviously a certain amount of muscle separation, but it allowed me a basis and a platform to compete and extract and embrace all these other amazing athletes that I saw obviously in front of me. And it gave me the motivation and determination to want to pursue something obviously within the bodybuilding industry. And it just materialized into multiple things. I went on to have a very successful amateur career, went on to become an IFBB pro back in 2002, but unfortunately had to retire 6 months after, just on a very bad knee injury, and that as well as and I started coaching athletes when I was probably about 22, 23, just as a hobby, because the way that I kind of looked at training philosophy and training execution and supplementation or diet was very different to what a lot of people were actually doing, in the past. And obviously, we've got a relationship, you and I, for many years, so you know a lot of my theories and philosophies towards diet, etc., etc. So I was very much the polar opposite to what a lot of other people were doing. And I saw success, I saw success with my own physique. I saw multiple success with my athletes. It was just a hobby for me at the time, and it materialized. And obviously, 30 years later, here I am today. I'm actually sitting in what is my little office, or will be my office, in the Dragon's Lair in Boca Raton, Flex Lewis's facility. And what's pretty cool about that, even though that's not a question you just asked me, it's amazing to think that three innocent Welsh guys from different family backgrounds, from different walks of life, have gone on to really do something special within the industry. And I'm getting a bit upset because I'm very proud of you, I'm very proud of Flex, and I'm also proud of my own accomplishments, because when people say to somebody, you can't do this or you can't do that, it's like, there are some things that we can't do. They're not all possible, Kris. It's okay to live a big dream, but some people dream too big that they get confused and they don't see what's in front of them. But in most cases, as long as you're true to yourself and you always see clearly with what's in front of you in the mirror, there's very little that you can't achieve in life if you commit yourself. And there's no better person that I've ever met than yourself, which has proven that multiple different times with what you've achieved in so many different disciplines, with fitness in general in our industry, and what you're doing now in business. I mean, look at Cage Muscle. I know that this question has changed, and you asked me a question about myself, and now I'm talking about you. I'm trying to get the viewer and the person who's listening to this podcast to realize is that they have to be able to relate to somebody. And you're a very relatable person.
Even with the tattoos and very short stature and stockiness and bad hair.
Well, that's probably something which is from the midget generation, Hobbit generation.
The Hobbits, yeah. But, let me just stop you there a second then. So do you think, for instance, because like obviously yourself, Flex, myself, all living in the US now, however, do you think because we all had quite tough upbringings, there's no doubt about it. I had the same thing where, if I needed new sporting clothes, sometimes we'd have to claim on the insurance so I could get some new rugby shorts or something like that, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that I remember our cars breaking down in the middle of nowhere. It's just how it was, But, there's a lot that you learn from that. And I think what I've learned from that, and I'm pretty sure you're the same, is that you don't look too far ahead at that success, as that you just said. You expect it to come to you. You see more the sacrifice that's right in front of you. And you don't even look at the distant picture. It's there subconsciously or at the back of your mind, but you're just focusing on today. Because I've noticed, when you work with your athletes, you kind of smother them completely day by day. But that's how you get the best out of them long term. Do you think our backgrounds coming from kind of a tougher sort of upbringing in Wales allows us to kind of see things differently when we're here in the US?
I think there's a number of contributing factors. I think that parenting brings a big part of it, Kris. Being a part of a blue-collar family where you've been brought up with very strong family morals of like hard work pays off, and whether you have been fortunate to be brought into money, is that, I wasn't brought into that environment whatsoever, but I know for a fact that if my parents had money, they wouldn't have given me any more than what they did. They would have made me work hard to prove that I deserve to have that helping hand here or there. And I also think the difference between the UK and America is that there's a lot more negativity in the UK as far as people believing that things are achievable and also wanting people to go on and achieve things in life. So what I mean by that is that if you're in the US and you're doing well, people, of course you're going to get some people which try to pull you down. But in general, people get inspired by other people's success. Whereas I feel that sometimes in the UK, people actually get jealous by other people's success. They only see a reflection of something and then think that they can actually see a perfect picture. It's not like that. I keep my personal goals very, very close to me. I don't really talk about my personal goals and my success or wanting to see the success of my athletes go on to achieve the best possible things that they can achieve and fulfill their personal development and achievements on stage, off stage. And I'm very much a big advocate as well that the athletes realise that there are other people which are a part of the journey with them, family members, loved ones, children, mother, father, girlfriend, brother, sister. And you have to realise that your own personal goals are not more important than other people's. You have to realise that and respect the people around you. I know that we're driven by one life, but that doesn't mean that we have to be so narrow-minded that we think that we are more important than other people, especially people which are actually a part of our life for special reasons. So even though it's a very complex, diverse answer, I hope that I've given you a little bit of clarity on that.
No, for sure. So while we're talking about the US and the UK, because you've been both sides of the pond, actually competing in the UK, preparing athletes in the UK, living there, but now living in the US and preparing athletes here, what is the main differences that you see between bodybuilding in Europe, let's say Europe and the UK, and in the US? Obviously, there's a different style of athlete that comes out of the Europe, generally, I'm generalizing, than you have in the US. And, we've got some, great athletes coming out of the UK now, obviously Flex being one of them, Luke Sandow, we got James, who's with Kate Muscle as well. There are athletes out there that have the physique that is kind of similar to those in the US. But what are the things that hold people back in Europe, and you think some that hold back people in the US? When it comes to bodybuilding specifically, competitive bodybuilding?
I think that being able to brand yourself on a bigger scale and interacting and networking within the US is definitely only going to benefit you. It allows you to obviously grow within the sport more, whereas in the UK it's a little bit more isolated. But hey, listen, let's look at Dorian Yates. That guy literally was a shadow, okay? He didn't leave his man cave, his temple gym, unless it was Olympia time, etc. And he proved himself to be one of the most dominating Mr. Olympias of all time. He brought a presence that possibly still not being matched as far as what he brought to the industry at that given time. Yes, there are people who could argue the fact that maybe Ronnie Coleman was the greatest all-time bodybuilder, or it could be Phil Heath, or it could be Dorian. But let's be honest, when Dorian came along, nobody was expecting that. But where was he living? He was living a sheltered lifestyle, driven by his own personal demons to be the greatest and the best bodybuilder in the world. So I think that there are arguments to say that being in the UK can be a great thing. You don't get caught up with the bullshit. What is over here that the UK doesn't have? Very little, but there is more ability to network, and there is more ability to expand your avenues and your general awareness within the industry. Why am I here? I'm here for a number of different reasons, because it allows me to be more accessible. It allows me to be more accessible. It allows me to be more central within our industry. I'm literally hours away from major cities if I need to attend an event, if I needed to do any marketing, or if I need to do any seminars, if I need to be, closer to any of my athletes. But that being said, it doesn't matter where I live in the world, I'm never going to be accessible or perfectly accessible to all of my athletes. It's impossible. I've literally just come back from Saudi Arabia. So I was in Saudi Arabia. I only returned back on Tuesday. I was there for pretty much 10 days. I was there, representing Cage Muscle with 1-1. I was there with William. He was with his sponsors. He was there. And we were basically locked down in Saudi Arabia, training for pretty much 10 days. Now, William would have been over there for about 3.5 weeks in total by the time he leaves. And he's actually leaving tomorrow. But my point is that I went, pretty much the polar opposite side of the world, to go to a location, into a country, in a city, somewhere completely opposite to me. And for 2 weeks, I was not in an ideal location for some of my athletes or clients here in America. But it's the same for everywhere in the world. As long as I have internet access, it allows me to work. And I'm, fortunate that I'm here in Boca, Texas, basically literally 20 minutes. His house is 20 minutes away from me. His private facility is only 10 to 12 minutes away from me. But I'm not accessible to anyone else, ideally, other than him. And that doesn't make me feel good, because that's why I went to Saudi Arabia and wanted to give my time to William. William does come over to see me from time to time, and of course I do go to see him. But I think that ultimately, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you commit to whatever it is that you need to be committed to, and you do have, a genetic advantage to what would be the normal average person, I feel that in itself is enough to go on to attain and see credibility and excellence within this industry, definitely.
Yeah. Now, you've helped a lot of amateur athletes. You've helped a lot of amateur athletes turn pro, and obviously people that a lot of our listeners would know. Steve Cook, Ryan Terry, Flex Lewis, and of course William Bona, who you just mentioned now. And you've got William, Flex, and Ryan competing in the Olympia this year, correct?
Yeah, so I've actually got 5 athletes. So I've got William obviously doing the open class. I've got Flex obviously doing the 212 class. I've got Alex Cambarero, one of my pros, doing the 212 class. He actually won, I think you saw his physique, and I know you commented it. He actually won the Dallas Roper, if I remember.
Yeah, looked great.
When he won his qualification. I have Steve Morales. He's actually a classic bodybuilder, very, very classic physique. And then obviously Ryan Terry. So this is my first year working with Ryan. So I have 5 athletes obviously competing in obviously this year's Mr. Olympia.
So that's a full card that you've got of top athletes really going for the titles in a lot of these categories. Like, does that, obviously you're trying to keep your athletes really calm, maintain, lower cortisol levels. But what about you? Are you absolutely stressing at this time, or do you find yourself pretty calm? Because if you do get stressed, you get emotionally involved, and then you can't be as clear with your calculations?
I think the only stress that I feel is when I have athletes which are overcomplicating their mindsets on things that we can't control at a given time. So where do I feel stressed? There's only one thing which is actually, I don't want to say stress, but I think for me, all I care about, Kris, listen, wholeheartedly, of course I want the athletes to go on and win titles or be extremely competitive. But the only one thing that I sometimes stress about or think about is that I just hope that when those athletes step on stage, they get judged with exactly what they look like in front of the judge's eyes. To me, it doesn't matter who's the current Mr. Olympia. It doesn't matter who's the future Mr. Olympia. It doesn't matter what somebody's genetic potential is. It doesn't matter about what was or what if or what the future is. Judge and place the athletes on what they look like on that given day. And if any of my athletes came first, second, third, or fourth, or 10th, and that's where they deserve to be placed, I'm happy with that. I can't control any more than that. Of course, I'll take responsibility if my athletes aren't in the shape that they need to be. Okay, so that, I can take responsibility for that. But sometimes athletes need to be doing what they need to be doing in order to live the lifestyle that they need to be living in order to be competitive on stage. So, William's in a very, very good place mentally. He's excited about the show. I know that he's missing his girlfriend back home in Holland, but he's not brought any. It's not giving me any stress. He lets me do my job. He trusts me. He just follows the process, and of course we talk and communicate. If he's got concerns or anything he wants to bring up, of course we speak about it, etc. Flex is in a very, very good place at the moment. We trained chest about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. He's actually 216.8 pounds this morning. Looking very flat today, super lean. He's stage ready lean, to be honest with you. Today that I've elevated his carbs. As far as Alex Cambarero, I know Alex hasn't got big dreams of being, in the top 3, but if he can place in the top 10, that's a very strong finish for Alex. Ryan, if I remember rightly, placed 6th last year, so we lost a lot of places because the year or 2 years before that he came 2nd, I think, twice. And of course, last year he won the Arnold Classic Men's Physique class, so he was going into last year's Olympia as one of the favourites, and he didn't, he certainly didn't get the place that he was hoping for. Was his place, warranted? Yeah, I saw pictures, and I think his placing was very fair, to be honest with you. But I know that, Ryan feels the pressure, and of course I feel the pressure from that because it's my first year working with him. Has he lost some momentum? There's a new caliber of actors coming into the industry. But to me, I take it very personal in the sense of, listen, let's just try and bring the most craziest look to the stage. And as long as we bring a look to the stage where people say, hey, man, that guy looks amazing, he's in shape, we can't do any more than that. So Unless things change and a lot of unforeseen issues come about, within the last hours or days, then I'm actually sitting here pretty confident that the guys are really in a good place. After that, it comes down to what they display on stage, and I have no control then. When they step on stage, it's all down to the judges.
Now, what I would guess and assume that you'd have these athletes on very different protocols, very different diets, very different carb loading, depletion protocols. Now, looking on the grand scale of things, like there's a lot of things that are, been out of touch, and now all of these new diets coming back in. When I say new, I'm talking about like the keto, the intermittent fasting, the carb cycling. I know you do a little bit of carb cycling, and you have the paleo diet. Have you ever, I know there's a lot of health benefits to some of these, but have you ever applied any of these sort of diets? And if not, why not? And what's your view on them?
I haven't applied any form of intermittent fasting because I do see the benefits, Kris. I do see the benefits on a health aspect of things. I see the benefits when it comes to internal inflammation and possible higher levels of toxin response from cortisol to free radicals, etc. And I would say that there's probably some really strong evidence to say that there's a very strong uptake in positive hormone response. But I don't feel that intermittent fasting is that perfect environment for a bodybuilder who's serious about building lean muscle tissue. I just don't see the evidence strong enough where I personally would say, hey, I think that this type of diet program is going to allow us to maximize our performances, which ultimately is building lean muscle tissue. There are multiple other benefits. For somebody going through a transformation, yeah. For somebody who's maybe just looking for a cleansing phase in the off season, yeah. But somebody who's serious about building lean muscle tissue, and somebody who's going into a pre-contest diet, I don't see enough evidence at the moment. And to be honest with you, there's too much at stake for me to want or advocate any of my athletes to undergo some form of responsive new diet program relatable to intermittent fasting when there's too much at stake, which ultimately is Olympia places or Olympia qualifications. It's not the time and place to try. Now, in the off season, yeah, no, that's a time that we could try it. But there just hasn't been a time period which has been suitable, in all honesty. So I think there's always going to be phases. I think that there's more of a phase towards intermittent fasting at the moment than there is a ketogenic diet that's been around forever. Okay, I do see the benefits of the ketogenic diet, 100%. But I also feel at the same time that you also have to be very aware that if you do go to the ketogenic diet phase, are you going to then find that if you do need to fill out when it comes contest time, are you going to start having issues because your digestive system has not been adequately primed in the way that it needs to see an influx in carbohydrates? So it's not the fact that I'm anti this, that, or anything else, and it's not that I'm set in my ways or too stubborn, but I like to try to be very, very open-minded.
Yeah, okay. So now, moving on to the next thing, and we'll go back to the Olympia now in a second. So, as an example, I've always had a mental block when it comes to a diet, and you know this, allowing myself to have maybe a cheat meal here or there. Physically, yeah, fine, I could probably do it, but mentally, I've always had a hard mental block. Thinking to myself, well, maybe I'm just, being weak by having that cheat meal, or maybe I'm rewarding myself when I don't deserve that reward, and I'm supposed to suffer, it's supposed to be hard. But I know, for instance, you use to great effect these cheat meals. And now nobody knows until maybe now, or by the time this podcast comes out, that I'm going to announce that, thankfully, you've accepted to work with me next year. Because I feel that, it's at that time where I've been doing, these videos and, whatever for 10 years in a row now. Yeah. And I feel I need some expertise and some guidance and some accountability. So I know that there's a possibility that you're going to get me on some cheat meals every now and again. So I'm going to have to get over that. That's fine. But with your diet protocol, I've noticed the diet that you have, for instance, you'll have your Weetabix, you'll have some milk, you'll have fruit, you'll accept bread. What is it that you find within a kind of a looser fitting diet protocol has given so much success? Is it because you're feeding not only the body and it needs that kind of requirement, that reward to shuttle the metabolism again, or is it a mental appeal to it for the athlete? Why is it that you came up with that, and what are the benefits?
Because it didn't really make sense to me that why would I need to remove my dairy if I'm having my whey protein? Because ultimately it's a form of milk. Now you could say yes, Neil, but it goes through some form of ferment process, which is obviously separating, it's obviously creating bindings, it's allowing a liquid to become a powder form protein.
And removing the lactose and stuff.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me that why did I need to remove my fruit when I know that there are healthy benefits from vitamins and minerals from there? Why do I need to remove my bread, my whole wheat bread, which indirectly is some form of complex carbohydrate? Why do I need to remove my milk? Now, I'm not saying that I would advocate all my clients and athletes to eat the same food types as me, okay? And I'm not into flexible diet, and let me explain to you why I'm not into flexible dieting. You are a big advocate for gut health and inflammation, okay? Kris, you're a big supporter, or you're a big advocate, and you like to obviously give your experiences and your knowledge on that, okay? And you've learned a huge amount within that area of the body, okay? When you're on a flexible diet and you're indirectly just counting calories, and as long as you get your calorie quantity in, you get your macronutrient quantities in, there may be food allergies or foods which really don't agree with you, which could be creating a huge amount of inflammation within your gut. The problem is you're creating an environment with flexibility, and it comes with repercussions. Whereas with me, the way that I look at not flexible dieting, the reason why I feel there's no reason why I can't have my Weetabix, why? Because it's complex carbohydrate. Why can't I have my fruits? Because I'm relying on my fruits for these types of vitamins, etc. Okay, you could say there's argument to say that the soils today don't have the same kind of nutrient values of vitamins, minerals, trace elements they did years and years and years ago. Yes, but ultimately, why do we have fruits and why do we have greens? Because we are trying to extract some form of nutrients from that food source, for instance. I will dissipate or reduce the amount of certain food types at certain phases. So at the moment, I'm drinking 2% milk. When I start my diet, I'll drink 1% milk. Okay, I'll keep my 1% milk in. I'll carry on making sure that my bread choice is definitely 100% 100% whole wheat, where at least I know that it's going to be more of a complex form as opposed to a multigrain. Now, if a multigrain didn't come with repercussions, what's a multigrain going to potentially do with it? Besides gut health in general, it's going to spike my insulin, and that's not something I necessarily want to take place. My battery's flashing low here. When it comes to a pre-contest or a transformation diet, etc. But there's also argument to say that if you are repetitively spiking your insulin very slightly and you're not carb sensitive, you could say that you're getting a very anabolic environment taking place within the human body. So there's a huge amount of evidence which is actually going to support that. You just have to find out what really works for you, and there's a lot of information on this, in the industry. There's a lot of information on the net, and it's great that people have the opportunity to be open-minded in that, but it allows people to be very confused. It creates confusion on multiple different levels. Ultimately, if you're in a calorie deficit, and your diet is balanced, so you have the correct proportions for your body requirements and needs and personal goals, protein, fat, carbohydrates, you're going to see some form of change. And the change that I tend to push towards is going to be either a transformation because I have a normal person, an everyday person, they're not competitive, they've got no intention to compete, and they want to lose body fat. But at the same time, they want to gain some kind of lean muscle tone, because otherwise it's easy to take weight off people, but preserving weight when you're in a calorie deficit can be obviously harder. You've seen it before. People will go through a fat loss program and they become skinny fat. They lose a huge amount of, body fat, but at the same time they lose a huge amount of muscle mass. That in itself isn't the environment that I've never been involved with. None of my clients, not even any of my everyday clients, would want that environment. We were both in India, Kris, for work, and you were over there for probably 3 years. I was there for 2 years. Every single one of our clients, from our celebrities to our corporate businessmen and women, who have no desires to be bodybuilders, they all want to hold on to some form of lean muscle tissue. And the perfect diet is a diet which allows somebody to maintain or build lean muscle tissue or tone for females and lose excess body fat, and then force down those negative environments with estrogen, etc., and force up healthy hormone response. And a conversion will always take place for the better with healthy hormone adaptation and negative hormone push down if the diet is in the positive place. If somebody's over-dieting, they're going to get the opposite. They're going to force down their positive hormones and they're going to be forcing up their negative hormones, which will happen very easy if somebody is dieting too hard, doing too much cardio, thinking more is better. You spoke about a few minutes ago, you said, it makes me feel like I got to be, you worded it as if you have to be struggling or you have to be torturing yourself. So, no. You're going to feel like you're suffering. That's what he said. Why would you want to be, or why should you be suffering on a diet a week in, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, when you're on a diet for 12 to 15 to 16 to 20 weeks? You're going to start to suffer more as your fat levels get down. If you were wanting to lose, if you were 20% body fat and you wanted to get to 10% body fat, which is a really good healthy body fat percentage, and you're going to try to do that over 12 to 15 weeks, why would somebody need to be torturing themselves or suffering in week 1, 2, 3, 4? No, that shouldn't be happening. That is, to me, that is an overkill environment. An overkill of possibly doing too much cardio, too much training, under-eating, over-dieting, and then creating a very negative environment.
Yeah, I'd say, and a very negative environment after a while, because then I guess that athlete is going to, or that person is going to kind of dread going on to their next diet and not enjoying the process. And maybe that's why, your clients have so much longevity within what they do. And further from that, yourself, how many years ago did you start training? Was it how many years ago did you start training? 30 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 19 or 49, 30 years ago.
Yeah, so now, if anybody follows you on your Instagram or any of your athletes' Instagram, they will see you're very unique because you are training with all of your athletes. I've never known you not to take a break. I know that you did for a little while after you retired from bodybuilding, but you've always been very, very consistent. And do you think that's partly because, of course, you have a love for training, there's no doubt about it, but because you've had this approach to dieting, we're kind of not dreading it because you're able to have your influx of nutrients and you're able to eat certain foods that other people kind of remove from themselves in the sense that they feel like they have to suffer?
I think a little bit, yes. But ultimately, I think that my training is a form of therapy for me. It gives me an outlet to just find who I am, to be in my own little world, to challenge myself on an even playing field, meaning that when I step into that gym environment, I'm competing against myself. I'm not competing against anybody else, and it allows me to separate the outside world, to my own time in the gym. Listen, I love training my clients. We've had some great training workouts together. For me, it's just more of a mental thing, I think, to be honest with you, Kris. Yes, I have the flexibility, but I choose that flexibility with my eating. But as I said, it's not a flexible diet. It's eating food choices which actually work for me. And also, I think of things very logically. On does something make sense or does it not make sense? For instance, I think to learn something new every day. You have to be open-minded enough, and you also have to try. And you also have to be very clear on what's in front of you, and not be blinded or live with smoke around you. Because if you can't see clearly what's taking in place, then it's easy to kind of caught up with a wheel which is going round and round and round, but it's not going anywhere. It's staying stagnant. It's very much like a hamster on a wheel. That hamster's run round and round every day, but that wheel's going around faster and faster. But that poor little bastard ain't going nowhere. He's in the same place 24/7, and I think that a lot of people do that.
Right, yeah. Okay, so just shifting gears back to the Mr. Olympia now. So obviously, the big talk is about Flex Lewis going in, which is his last 212 competition. Now, I've seen the pictures. The guy looks like an absolute freak, extremely freaky this year. Just, obviously he has to diet down and lose some muscle to get into the 212, which doesn't provide, potentially his best look. Do you feel that that you are going to go straight into the Open next year? What's the consensus? What's the insider's view on that one?
No, he's not going to. Like we kind of spoke about it, but we haven't spoken about it. And what I mean by that, we spoke about the fact, okay, we are going to move up into a new division, but our focal point is this year's Olympia. But I'm telling you now, even if Flex said to me today, no disrespect, I want to compete next year, so no, you're not going to compete next year. He's good enough to compete next year and win a pro show. Maybe win 2, 3, 4 pro shows. But he will not be good enough to be competitive. Kris, there's a difference between being competitive and competing. So what is competitive to me? Well, when I look at something like Flex, competitive means you're in the top bunch of those athletes. You're not from 7th to 10th. You're not from 10th to 15th. You're actually in that top 6. And Flex could win pro shows next year, but to be competitive in that Olympia or that Arnold in Columbus, it's going to need maturity and nurturing as far as that muscle is concerned. Now, muscle is pretty easy to build, okay? But whether it's false solution is another thing. So we can build fullness in his physique. But it's not fullness we need, it's muscle tissue. Muscle tissue over 18 to 24 months is going to accumulate a much different look than something which is just accumulated over 12 months, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for Flex to be competitive in that Olympia, it's going to be 18 to 24 months off the stage. And what I want people to actually understand is that when Flex was a 202 athlete, he competed in Olympia, he didn't place so well, he came 5th. It was a big disappointment, but there was a reason behind it. He literally didn't stop working. He was with Gaspari, they worked his ass, he travelled the world, he was literally just a machine travelling, working. And he didn't have time to resynchronize and build muscle tissue and go into a proper pre-contest diet in a very good mental and physical state. His body was tired, and it hurt his physique. So what happened is that we took 18 months off stage, and he came back, and he absolutely blew the industry apart with a new refined physique, new muscle tissue, gained probably about 8 to 10 pounds of muscle. I feel that Flex has to be roughly 224 to 228 to be competitive in that Open class. At 224 to 228, he's going to be a real handful against whoever he competes against. And that's something which I'm not willing to rush. It's going to take time, and I feel that 24 months is a good time frame for us to put that added lean muscle tissue on. That's what I feel, to be honest with you. So as it is at the moment, obviously our head is just in the game. Exactly 2 weeks today, he's going to be on stage. He's going to be on stage in the pre-judging 2 weeks tonight in Las Vegas. So our ultimate focus at the moment is that. But at some point, we will be regrouping as far as an off-season is concerned, and then focusing on a proper off-season. We won't even talk about what show that's going to be until after 6 to 12 months. It's too far away. We need to have accountability. The accountability is in 2020, that guy is stepping on stage. He doesn't need to step off stage to 220 till 221. That's possibly too much time to be away from the stage. But I feel that the time which is necessary is 18 to 24 months, and then he will be a major contender in that Olympics class. That's what I believe.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's what I believe. And as I said, it's time. It's nurturing that time in development.
So, okay. Now, with you have obviously Flex going in for this Mr. Olympia. You have William Bona vying for being the favourite going in for the Open Mr. Olympia. Now, you've worked with both of these athletes for many, many years now. Do you change the contest prep protocol in the last 24, 48 hours, etc., with these athletes as you would have maybe the year before, and a year before that, and a year before that? I'm assuming that you're not experimenting during this time. You would have done that earlier. However, do you find that their bodies adapt and they react completely different, taking you by surprise sometimes, as they did like a year before, so you have to think basically on your feet as you go into like this year's show, for instance?
If you ask me, Ryan actually messaged me yesterday and said, "Hey, can you let me know if you can jump on a? William was just messaging me from Saudi Arabia. Ryan said, "Hey, can you let me know if you could jump on a call tomorrow so we can just talk about what we're going to be doing in Las Vegas? The last couple of days." It's like, Ryan, I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know what I'm going to do with you next week yet, because I don't know what you're going to look like next week. So what I'm saying is, of course, I will have multiple different ideas of what I might do with my clients, depending on what they're looking like, Kris. But honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to do with them until I see them. And believe you, William and Flex are very different with what I do as far as carb loading and drying out. Very different. There's a little bit of similarities. But what I do with William for this year's Olympia could be very different to what I did with him at the Arnold's. I mean, he brought an amazing, probably the best package he's ever brought to the Arnold stage. But it will purely depend on what he looks like. So, for example, last year when William flew into Las Vegas, I was going to start drying him out very, very slowly on Tuesday night. Okay, looked at him and thought, I don't need to start drying him out. Let's have a look at him in the morning. Looked at him on Wednesday morning. No, I don't need to dry him out. Looked at him on Wednesday night. I don't need to dry him out. Looked at him on Thursday morning, and I thought, right, I'm still not going to dry him out. I'm going to start drying him out tonight, because he was drier and harder than what I was expecting him to be at those different points, which is obviously a good thing. But what happened is he literally did not stop. He was on his feet all night long. All day long on Thursday. He had the press conference, he had the athletes meeting. Straight after the athletes meeting, he took his mum and his sister and his girlfriend to the mall for 4 hours. He went straight from there to meet the Olympians at night. And when I looked at him the night before, the Thursday night, Kris, when I looked at William, I looked at him and thought, what the hell have you done? He looked terrible. I mean, he looked so tired, Kris. His body looked empty, completely empty. So my point is that obviously I had to change my protocol on what I was going to do with him in relationship to what he looked like. So it's not the fact that I don't want to, speak about what I will or what I won't do, etc. When it comes to final stages of Olympia prep and drying out and loading. Until I see them in the flesh at different stages, I will start then deciding what I'm going to do, and it will be subtle changes. And I will basically monitor the guys anywhere between every 4 and 6 hours. I'll see what they're looking like, and then obviously if their body's heading in the direction I want them, I'll obviously carry on with the protocol. If I feel I need to make changes, I'll make changes. And that's me being very, very honest here. It's not a black and white. It's not a cookie cut in the diet. The human body is a very special, complex, animal or machine, whichever way you want to sort of talk about ourselves. And until I see what's happening with their muscle bellies and their separation and their hardness and their refinement and their fullness, that's when I will obviously make the changes which are necessary.
Awesome. Got it. I'm looking forward to this year's Mr. Olympia. It's going to be a packed house. and it's going to be very, very competitive, I feel.
Honestly, this is going to be the best Mr. Olympia ever. I honestly believe that. I genuinely believe that this year's Mr. Olympia is going to be absolutely the most competitive ever. And the reason why I say that is that Phil has pressure on his shoulders. He knows he's got pressure on his shoulders this year. Okay? I still think he's the best bowler in the world. Do I think he's beatable? Yes, 100%. There was one person I honestly believe who could beat him, judging on what we've seen with their physiques in the past, okay? And that would be William. William is the only person who can match Phil for that clean muscle belly in every single muscle group. William's got more refinement than Phil. William's got more separation than Phil. William's got that freakiness. What has Phil got? Phil's got that extra volume on his physique, and he's got that extra bit of height, and it obviously does work in his favour. Now, if Rami can bring a look that he's never brought to the stage, which means for the first time he's got to bring a look which is separated in every single muscle group, and it's refined and it's detailed, then who's going to possibly beat him? Because the guy has got muscle on top of muscle. But bodybuilding isn't about muscle. You might say this, no, bodybuilding is about muscle bellies. There's a difference between muscle and muscle bellies. There's a big difference. Muscle belly is about shape. It oozes a sense of cleanness. It oozes hard work. It looks effortless. It looks, it's a pretty picture. It's not chemical. It's not enhanced. It's not false. So to me, that's what muscle bellies are. You're looking at shape, symmetry, refinement, condition, hardness, dryness. Are you 3D or 4D from side to side, back to front? Do you have any weaknesses in your physique? That's bodybuilding. And the only athletes that I can honestly say that I see which present that on the stage in the Mr. Olympia is William and Phil. That's me completely separating my opinions and my relationship with William. But if Rami brings that look, which he's been chasing forever, I don't know if that can be beaten, because it's just, but he's got to bring that physique. So straight away, you've got that physique of Phil Heath, which is just perfection as far as I'm concerned. You've got Big Rami, which is as big as a house. Nobody can compete against him with size. There's no point even thinking about playing a size game because you're going to look small. You have William, which is ultra 3D, 4D, top to bottom condition, complete. Then you have the likes of Nathan D'Asher, which is really gathering some momentum, and he's always in shape. That's one thing I'll say about Nathan. He always improves. He's always in shape. And then you've got the athletes which are going to be similar to him. So you've got the likes of Sean Roden. You've got the likes of Brandon Curry. You've got the size of Rowley Winkler. You got Dexter Jackson, and if I miss anybody else, it's not personal, because it's hard to try and remember the caliber of this year's Mr. Olympia, because it really is phenomenal. And I honestly feel that these guys are going to be in shape, because you'll normally find that in the top 10, you'll normally find maybe 3 to 4 guys are in crazy condition, and then some guys have missed their peak, And there will be some athletes which maybe not necessarily crack the top 6 or top 10, which are in really good condition. And you also got Juan Morale. You've got Juan Morale, who's really coming off some really good performances this year. You've got Steve Cooklow. I mean, the depth, seriously. And I'm going off their past looks in stage. So their past looks have not disappointed. They brought, real condition to the stage when they've won their shows or qualified. And then you've obviously got the men's physique division, which is going to be extremely competitive. And then you've got the 212 class, and that's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be absolutely, a dogfight. There's some new blood coming into the industry in the 212, which is going to bring major challenges, towards that title. I'm looking forward to seeing, the talent on that stage. It's going to be very, very difficult for Flex to battle and win that show. But is it something that I believe will happen? Yes, I do. Is it something we're obviously trying to achieve? Yes, exactly the same way as Phil and Hanny are obviously chasing that 8th Mr. Olympia title, in the same way that me and William are obviously trying to knock out Phil or be, the last man standing next to him. The depth of talent this year is serious, man. I don't think I've seen the talent this tight before.
Now, going back nearly 20 years ago was the last time that you stepped on a professional bodybuilding stage, correct? Was it nearly about 20 years ago?
Say again, sorry, Kris?
Was it about 20 years ago that you last stepped on the pro bodybuilding stage? It must have been about that.
2002.
Like 16, 17 years ago. So obviously you were known for coming in incredible shape. You were known for coming in absolutely shredded, ripped, dry. Now, with the advancements of what you've learned over the past 18 years or so, in regards to training, nutrition, supplementation, all of these things, what is the one thing that you would have liked to have taken back to you and your physique as a professional bodybuilder that you would have applied, back then from today?
I didn't hear all of that because I think the connection's not good. But I think what you was asking me was, is there anything new that I would like to extract now and be able to bring it and implement into my past years of competing to possibly be better? Is that correct?
Correct.
Listen, let's be real here, okay? Have the physiques really got better over the last 10 to 15 years?
Conditioning-wise, probably not, no.
Probably not, no. I think that the depth of talent has increased. Why? Because there's more people who are, involved in our industry now who are looking to compete. And obviously the IFBB Pro League have done an amazing job, right, of giving all these great athletes the opportunity and the platform to follow their dreams and their goals and their personal execution and time that they put into the gym and be competitive on an international stage on a pro show. There's pro shows all around the world, but now the IFBB Pro League have obviously set up their own amateur division, which is given amateurs, every single amateur bodybuilder, male or female, or anyone in our industry, bikini, men's physique, etc., an opportunity to compete and be competitive, and then go on to maybe international recognition with international amateur shows or to turn pro. But do I think the quality of the physique's got better? No, I don't think the condition has necessarily got better. I don't think that I would be doing anything different now, learning what I've learned from when I was 20, when I was like 32 to where I am now at 49. Now, I do feel that sports supplementation is improved. Okay, but Kris, I'm being very unbiased here. It's really since Cage Muscle have come to the marketplace. Now, I know that this isn't about Cage Muscle. This isn't about Cage Muscle. But let's just be very real here. Let's look at sports supplementation. Why is it that if sports supplementation is better now, then why have our athletes gone backwards with their condition in the last 10 years? I mean, seriously, because I feel that people have complicated things. They have gone to extreme measures. They are not putting the work and effort into. They're trying to look for easy choices from training to nutrition to supplementation, etc., etc. Do I feel that the correct quality and protocol of sports supplementation can make a difference to somebody who's serious about performance and seeing a change? Yes, so that's from every sport, no matter what it is, track and field, football, soccer, whatever it be, bodybuilding. Yeah, but you're probably looking at about maybe 5%. Maybe 5% you're going to see an increase in some form of positive change. 5% at the highest level, or 5% when you're competing on any level, is a huge amount. That's a big change. But do I think that sports supplementation has necessarily got better over the last 10 years, 15 years? No. Do I think that Cage Muscle has turned the tables? Do you know how many companies within our industry, so when I say our industry, let's talk about like bodybuilding, okay? And when I say bodybuilding, we're looking at bikini, men's physique, classic bodybuilder. How many supplement companies which are targeting that industry are using fermented products? What kind of percentage? Are we looking at 50% of the companies, 40%, 60%?
No, I can only think of two.
Pardon?
I can only think of two.
Right, and ask you one more time. Sorry, Kris, how many people? How many companies?
2.
2, exactly. That's my point. I guarantee you, as the months or the years go by, these big, large companies which are selling shit to the consumer are going to start changing their product lines to fermented product. Why? Because they're not giving the consumer the quality which is needed and required, and they should be given. I'm sorry, but it's an actual fact. So what have I learned over the last 20 years or so since I competed last, or whatever it may be? I've learned to be more open-minded. I've learned to listen to my body more. I've learned to extract as much information as I can from my own clients, regardless what type of client is, to try and find out exactly what is aiding that change for them. And then it's just a matter of refinement. Now, do I think that there is a perfect training protocol or diet for everybody? No, but there is once you find out what works for you. Once you find out what works for you, but a lot of people won't take the time to actually find out what works for them, and they will make multiple different choices of changing this, and everything else. And for you to really track your progress, I feel that you really need to be sticking to a program for at least 8 to 12 weeks. I think 8 to 12 weeks gives you a real foundation to gather data and information on what's working and what's not working. That's me personally. Don't get me wrong. If you're in an overtrained state, an under-dieted state, etc., you have a low hormone response taking place, then you might feel those changes very quickly within the first week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So of course you can make sense of what's taking place very, very quickly. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're on that fine tipping point between being in a positive environment or a negative environment, it's very fine. It's going to take longer for you to extract what is working and what isn't working.
Got it. All right, well, I'm going to be looking forward to working with you next year to figure out what works and what isn't working with me. I'm really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be a challenge. I'm really looking forward to coming over there to Boca, Florida, getting a couple of workouts in as well. I'm not going to lie, I'm probably a little bit nervous going into a couple of those workouts, but I'm excited at the same time because we've had some workouts in the past that people know that I commonly say were the worst and best workouts of my life because I could not literally walk for several days following. I remember collapsing in the middle of the strip trying to cross the road in Vegas after we had a workout together with a couple of other pros. And I remember being laid up, having to miss out on a client's appointment for the very first time in my life whilst in India with ice packs all over my thighs because I literally could not stand up. So for that reason, I am a little bit nervous, but for another reason entirely, I'm really, really looking forward to this challenge because I feel that I'm in the moment of my life where I need that challenge now. So I need to step to the plate. So, I'm really looking forward to that. So just to wrap this up now, Neil, going into the Olympia, which I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time, who is the winner of the physique, the 212, and the open class? I'm putting you on the spot.
Shit, man, that's a lot of pressure.
Drum roll, please.
I feel like William. I think William's going to be first or second. The reason why I can't give you one, we can only control what we bring to the stage. Okay, we have no idea what anyone else is going to bring. If Phil brings the package which he's capable or has been capable in the past, I feel that Phil is going to be too strong to beat. Okay? But I feel that we've made some really good improvements. And even if Phil brings a look to win the title. It might not be enough. It might not be enough. It might not be enough. We might not even hit our peak. I do feel that the Olympia placing, if the athletes bring their physiques, which they have, which they're capable of in past performances. I'm talking about past performances, okay? So, for instance, do I think that Phil Heath has brought his best look over the last 2 to 3 years at Olympia? No, not at all. If we look at last year's look that Phil Heath brought, he's going to leave himself wide open, and I feel that if William brings his best ever look, I feel that will definitely beat Phil Heath. That's my opinion. But if Phil brings a physique which he's capable of past, I think he's going to be the person who's going to win the title. Okay? When it comes to the 212 class, I feel that Flex is going to win that show. It's going to be very difficult for him. But I feel that he's going to win that show and step off stage with that 7th Olympia title. And as far as that men's division, the trouble is men's division, physique division, has changed so much, Kris. And that's something I don't even know what the judges are looking for. I personally think that I personally feel that when Ryan Terry was at his best, I feel that he probably won the Olympia one year. I think at one year, to me, I would give that guy the Mr. Olympia title. I still feel that Ryan's got the best midsection in the industry in that men's physique. 100%, I genuinely do, okay? But does he have the wide shoulder to waist ratio as some of these guys have got? No. But he's got what I call a men's physique. Some of these men's physiques, I don't know if that is actually men's physique. It's borderline of bodybuilding, or it's borderline of classic bodybuilder, but they don't have the legs for classic bodybuilding. And again, I'm being very constructive because, listen, when you step on stage on that Mr. Olympia stage, you're a champion wherever you place. You put the hard work in. You deserve to step on that stage, and there's always going to be argument to say, constructive argument or debate, this guy should be first, second, third, or fourth. Do I think that Ryan can win? Yeah, I do. But we've got to bring our best ever look. We've got to bring our best ever look. I don't know if Jeremy's going to bring his past best. I don't know, mate. It's not that I don't want to be put on the spot, man. It's because there's so many freaking variables. There's variables. Kris, there's a lot of variables, and there's athletes which are gathering momentum on their past places as well. And you said to me, hey, you can't talk about past. They proved themselves for the last, say, 3 shows. They brought their condition. They've won shows. They're a major contender. Ryan came 6th in the Olympia last year, but then he went on to win the Korean show a week later, and he brought a phenomenal package. Now, if Ryan brought the package to Olympia that he brought in Korea, would he have come 6th? No. Now, maybe he would have maybe been a major contender against Jeremy then. He didn't bring that look. So I'd like to answer that question on that division, but it's too open, Kris. It really, really is,
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I look forward to seeing you there, Neil. And, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us on the podcast and sharing your in-depth knowledge with our viewers. Now, if anybody wants to reach out to you, they want to follow you, they want to get trained by you, how do people reach out and make that contact?
So if there's anybody who's serious about training, having me as their coach, guys, okay? So when I say that means you're serious, it means that you're actually serious about seeing a physical change. You don't have to be a competitor. You could be somebody who's going through a lifestyle change. You could be somebody who's going through a transformation, losing body fat, gaining lean muscle tissue, or maybe you are a competitive athlete who are looking to compete. Then my prices start at $300 a month. That's my basic package. If you don't have $300 a month to invest into me, then don't contact me. And I know it sounds really harsh, and nobody's probably ever done this before, because, Kris, I get hundreds of people message me every single month, every month. Then you can private message me on Instagram, so you can obviously check my Instagram, Neil at Yoda_Hill1. Send me a private Instagram message, and obviously I'll return a message back to anybody. So if there's anybody who's serious about contacting me, then obviously they can send me a private message through my Instagram. Yes, it is me. I'm the only person who has access to my Instagram account currently, so it will be me that you're speaking to, not somebody else.
Okay, all right. So I'll put that link in the show notes below. And if you like, I'll put the link to your website in our show notes below. And now I got one more question, just the last question. And this is from my girlfriend, Sunshine, Sybil. Okay. She wants to know, why do you have such a contrasting theme on your Instagram where you'll have hardcore, bodybuilder, yourself, or flex, or whatever, and then you'll have a picture of a little kitten, or a picture of a little sea lion or something? She wanted to know. Ask Neil this. So here I am asking you that question.
Because I live in the real fucking world, Chris. I don't want to be around bodybuilding and the industry all the time. I understand that there's a life beyond my personal profession, which is in the fitness industry. Listen, I love my work. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love my time in the gym. I challenge myself with my work. I put the effort in with my clients. But I also like to think that there's a world outside of our industry. And to me, what is there? There's travel. There's experience in life. I love animals, nature. Like I'm into all of those things. And also I think that we as humans need to learn from innocent people or things to make us realize what's important in life. So sometimes if I put a picture up of an animal, read what I've written, and hopefully it will be relatable to what I'm trying to express. So, you know, I'm a big animal lover, okay? I really am. And if we look at nature in general, everything's about fighting for survival, but everything is supposed to be in harmony. You know, nature is supposed to work in harmony. Sometimes I feel with our industry, there's so much negativity. People are actually fighting against themselves for no reason. So I try to keep myself very grounded with what I want from my life and what I want from my world. You know, I'd like to think one day that I'll have the opportunity to no longer work, and what would I do? I'd spend the rest of my life traveling, adventure, and experiencing life. That's what I would love to see. I'd love to see culture, history, countries, cities, and extract everything I can about this amazing world that we live in before I take my last breath of fresh air. That's what I would like to experience. Because I think sometimes people get so consumed into this that we're in, they don't have a life outside it, and that's not healthy by any means. We only have to look at how many people take fucking selfies on socials. They probably take 20 pictures before they post a picture. You know, like, I mean, how many women today on socials are posting pictures unless their tits look great? It's like half of these women don't even have their real boobs anymore, or their asses. Like, seriously, that's not what this industry, that's not health and fitness. That's the complete polar opposite. And most people who go to the gym and train, they train, or they're in this circle because they have huge insecurities. They look at everybody else, which creates even more insecurities. I'm not insecure of myself. Listen, I know I'm not 6 foot tall. I know I'm not hung like a donkey. But listen, I'm happy and contented with myself. And if that's not enough, then hey, there's nobody else I'm trying to please, except other my girlfriend.
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully you're doing some other things to get creative with to keep her pleased.
And I'm sure now you wish that you never asked that question.
No. I know that the questions that I've asked you before, Neil, are far, far worse. So you be yourself to a certain degree, buddy.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you ever so much. Really appreciate that, Neil. And please, if you do have any questions for Neil, do go to his Instagram, follow him there. Obviously, you can send him some direct messages if you are serious. But please follow the guy and wish him luck as we go into the Mr. Olympia. Neil, Yoda, Y3T, it's been an honor. Thank you very much. We will see you at the O.
Thanks, Chris. I'll take it easy. I'll speak to you soon, my friend, and I'll see you in Las Vegas.
You shall. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, everybody, we are out.